What does the word resilience mean to you?
The word resilience mean being able to go through some tough things, some tough times, but having the fortitude and that mental fortitude to continuously push through, because resilience teaches you so many things about you mentally, emotionally, so much things about your identity, so much about your character, and see what could you actually push through. And I think that's what life was always showing me.
I'm Angela Williams,
And I'm Katie Sudano.
and I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
And I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse.
Welcome to Voice Up for the Voiceless. We're so happy that you've tuned in today because we are covering a really deep and dark subject of child sexual abuse. And we're so excited to be able to give survivors a platform to tell their stories, to give those that are an inspiration for our community, and also for those that are experts working in the field. And we're excited today, Katie, to be here in the studio.
Excited, all the way from West Palm Beach, Florida.
We have a guest, Michael Allison. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm just so honored that you drove all the way up here. In fact, I had to ask you again. I'm like, wait, are we doing Zoom? Or not Zoom, but virtual, or are you going to be in studio? So we're so honored that you came here and that you took the time to talk about the subject. I know it's not the funnest subject, but I do find solace or find happiness in that I know there's always an inspirational story behind every survivor that we've always had and that we talk to. So I can't wait to hear about you and your
Michael,
story.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kid born in Jamaica, raised in Miami, Florida. And now I'm the founder and CEO of the Adversity Academy, where we help people get over adversity through either leadership, whether it's personal development and professional development. And, that started a long time ago when I was a kid, though, when it comes to the adversity that I face. Unfortunately, I was one of those kids that came from Jamaica as an immigrant. And my first day into America, I was molested by a family member.
Okay, hold on. I always do this with my guests because you tend to talk about it because you know your story, but I'm the audience right now. Whoa. Look, how old were you?
I was 7 years old.
Okay, so you just came into the United States.
Yes. So several years living in Jamaica, my mom and dad went through a flood. They lost everything. Then a couple years later, we went through a hurricane. They lost everything. So they decided that it's time for a change. So if you think about typical island families, how they want to migrate and come to other countries. So they went to New York and they wanted to go there to try to make some money, figure things out, and then bring their kids up. So me and my siblings, we stayed in Jamaica. So once they made enough money, we had family members that was living in Miami. So they shipped us all the way on Air Jamaica flight back in those days when that airline existed.
I just heard your accent. I just heard it just now.
Those airlines when they existed. And then we got picked up in Miami, Florida from my aunt, my uncle, and their kids.
And okay, so their kids, how many kids, and were they older than you?
They had 3 kids. So one of them, which was my age, he's now passed away. He passed away from COVID. Then there was a younger one, and then there was an older female sibling. She was 13, 14 years old at the time, and then they had a baby at the time as well, too.
Okay.
And inside of that household was my aunt, my uncle, and my grandma on that side. So they picked us up, and we go home. And as we got home, they kind of settled us in, but it's in Miami, Florida, but in Overtown Projects, if you ever heard of Overtown Projects back in 1988.
I used to live in Miami, yeah.
And if you think of projects, the ghetto, that's what it was, where you're seeing drug dealers, prostitution, gangs, graffiti, all those things around that particular time. And that's what I was brought into. So where we was living at was inside of an apartment where the apartment only had 3 bedrooms. So inside of the bedrooms were my aunt and uncle, they slept in their room. My grandma slept in their room. And then you had these 6 kids in 1 bedroom. And we were sleeping on the floor the first night that we got there. And the first night we got there, we ate some food and they settled us in, told us where we were going to be sleeping at. So we're sleeping on the floor. And then in the middle of the night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, my older cousin gets on top of me, starts taking off my clothes, and is trying to have sex with me. And I start screaming, start yelling as I'm a 7-year-old boy, never experienced anything like this before.
And she's a female.
And she's a female. And her mom comes in, she grabs her, snatches her off of me, and she puts the belt to her and starts beating her butt like it's nobody's business. And after that, we've never spoken about it. I've never shared it with my mom, any of my family members, and
still to this day.
I have.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
as I go through my story, I'll tell you a little bit more in regards to how that was revealed. But at that particular moment, we never spoke about it, and never something obviously I ever experienced before. And we were a guest in their house. Mom and Dad was not there yet. So it was, in my mind, it was like, how can I say anything? Should I say anything? Could I hurt the relationship with my family members? Those types of things. So that was something that I just internalized for several years.
That's a lot for a 7-year-old.
A 7-year-old, and you're 2 trying to get used to you're in a totally different place, a strange place.
Exactly. So I'm speaking Jamaican patois, so I don't know nothing about no English or any of that.
I love that.
Right?
I love the
So
accent.
I'm trying to adjust and trying to, if you want to say, kind of like Americanize, and just trying to get used to things because they're Americans. And that was a transition for me in regards to just adjusting to that. You know, for me, I carried that for close to over 30 years until I decided to talk about that, put that inside of my book, get on the TEDx stage and share my story on TEDx as well. And now that's what I get to do in travel as a keynote speaker, to share my story too as well.
That's excellent. We're so honored that you're here and sharing your story.
And you're also a veteran.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. So, you know, I decided to just join and serve after I graduated from high school. You know, I went through an injury in high school where I tore my ACL and MCL. And I said, what's the next best thing that I could do in regards to, I think kind of like the thing for us as Jamaicans is to not be a burden to our parents, as like they kind of instilled in your mind to like work hard, get an education.
Because then you're going to take care of them. Is that the culture?
That is the culture, and that is the mindset, right? So I looked at what could I do next, and I was in high school, and Staff Sergeant Noda was there by the lunchroom, and he said, hey, come here for a second. Let me talk to you for a little bit. Have you thought about the Marine Corps? I said, no, never thought about it, never looked into it. Don't have a family member that served or anything like that. And as he went on and told me more about it, you know, I had another experience that occurred prior to that, you know, and I'll share about that now in regards to why it led to me joining the Marine Corps. So 3 years past that, I went to my mom and I said, hey, I hear this thing at school about Boy Scouts. And I'm a kid at this particular moment. I'm very shut down. I'm isolated. So I'm looking for something to be a part of. And at this moment, the Boy Scouts seemed like something I could be a part of a group, part of something. So I started Boy Scouts. I'm going on camps. I'm going on trips. I'm integrating myself with these guys, becoming friends with them. Didn't think anything of it. I'm just an 11-year-old boy just having fun, going on trips and camping. Then towards the summer, they say, hey, we have a trip to go to Washington, D.C. Would any of you guys would like to go? So I'll come back home, tell my mom and dad, hey, there's a trip to Washington, D.C. Can I go? They pack us up. We take a Amtrak all the way to Washington, D.C. And we're there. We're going to the monuments, and we're doing a whole bunch of fun things, taking pictures and so on and so forth. On the last day of this trip, it's 12 boys, and we split up in rooms. And we're coming back, and half of the boys go to one room, and me and the other half of the boys go to one room. And we're taking showers, and I get ready to go take my shower. I go inside of the shower, and I come out. And on the wall, I see 5 of the other boys naked. I was told to get on that wall too as well. And the scoutmaster treated us like we were pieces of meat, treated us like we were nothing. And I experienced something that no boy should ever experience in their life. I come back from that, and I was a completely shut down individual. I was shut down. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't say anything on that way back home. And as soon as I got off that train, I told my mom what happened. And the thing about this, understanding when your family comes from another country and you guys are not well versed with legal things and not well versed with things that go on and what you could say and what you could do.
Well, there's an element of fear.
Exactly. There's so much things that was tied to that. So my mom just took me out of the Boy Scouts, and nothing else was ever said. Nothing else was ever done.
Do you remember the person?
So I just bottled those things in and kept those emotions in for several years.
So he's never been held accountable, or did they finally?
So nothing was ever done then. Now there is actually a class action lawsuit against the Boy Scouts that's publicly known right now, and I'm a part of that too as well.
Oh,
but it's been going on for many, many years.
Yeah. Exactly. So fast forward into the story in regards to why I joined the Marine Corps. I was looking to be a part of something in regards to a brotherhood and something where I could go out and start proving myself, accomplishing things, and those types of things. Hence when I decided to join the Marine Corps. So when I joined the Marine Corps, you know, they tell you all of the good things about it, but not any of the horror stories or the bad stories or anything like that.
I think more and more of that is coming out.
Yeah. But when I joined, you know, I went through the entire process of signing in, swearing in, and taking the trip from Miami, Florida, all the way to Parris Island, South Carolina, and then having drill instructors yelling at you, "Get on my bus, get off of my bus." And we get off and we go through the whole HR process in regards to getting your paperwork, your medicals, getting your haircuts, getting all of your issued uniform and so forth. And to go through that 3-month process, and just going through that acclimation and that adjustment was something new for me. But when I was there, you know, I thought to myself, how am I going to push through this? And how can I be resilient? How can I be tough through this? And I think of my parents pushing through tough things. And then I thought about myself of me pushing through tough things and saying to myself, if I could get past some of these things, then I know I could get past boot camp and graduate. And eventually I did, and went on to serve for 8 years after that.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Did you have deployments during that 8 years?
Yeah, I did. So when September 11th hit, I was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I'm getting ready to go to work. I'm driving in my vehicle, and all of a sudden, I hear sirens going off on the base, and I'm getting phone calls from family members asking me, "Hey, are you safe? Are you okay?" And then your family immediately thinks the worst. So, so there was like, "Are you going to war?" I'm like, "I don't even know what you guys are talking about."
Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah.
Because I was just driving in my car, and then when I get down to the ramp and we're hearing about it on the TV and the news, we're hearing what just took place. And all of a sudden, one of the biggest things that my family feared was for me to go to war, especially when I left them 4 o'clock in the morning to join the Marine Corps. And, you know, that level of fear kicked in regards to like what's about to take place, because several years or a short time after that, President Bush declared that we're going to go to war. So that did occur, but we did not go to war until 2-3 years later after that. So in between that time, I went to Japan, served over there in Japan, and then when I got to Camp Pendleton, California, I got attached to 3rd Amphibious Assault Vehicle and 1st Marine Division. And while I was out there, we're starting to train up, we're starting to ramp up, and we go out to 29 Palms, and then Captain Venning comes out to us and tells us, "Boys, it's our turn, it's time to go overseas, and it's time for us to go fight this war." And from there, we started prepping, we started training. So when you think about putting rounds down range, starting to train as if we're going to go hand-to-hand combat, those types of things.
That's when it gets real,
Exactly. So we started preparing for that while we were over there in 29 Palms. And then once it was time to go, I broke up with my girlfriend. I cut off cell phones. I turned every single thing off in regards to just knowing that this could be bad. This could, in regards to like worst case scenario, there's something that I was thinking about.
Is that what you're trained to do, or is that just something you decided to do for yourself?
It's something that I decided to do, and probably maybe it's something that I've just seen, and just knowing how gruesome this war has been and would have been. I was seeing things around Desert Storm and all those other wars and things like that. And growing up as a kid that was someone that liked movies like Rambo and American Ninja and stuff like that, you see all those things, you know, so that level of fear kind of like kicks in. But what I did rely on was the training that we had and knowing that I would have been prepared. And in addition to that, when I was younger, my grandmother always was praying for me, and she's always been a praying grandmother. And my mom is a prayer warrior, and she took that to the church and told the church, "Pray for my son, pray for my son." And I'm gonna tell you why that resounded so much with me. So we leave from California, Seattle, Canada, Germany to Kuwait, and we're there in Kuwait waiting, and we're waiting, and then we march over 100 vehicles, 5 tons, tracks, you name it, all these vehicles rolling from Kuwait all the way into Iraq. And we're on a convoy rolling for hours and days. And once we get there in the middle of the night. And as soon as we park our vehicles and we muster up, we hear, "Incoming!"
Oh, no way.
And all of a sudden, boom, boom.
Hold on a second. I just got this visual like a movie. It's like you hear incoming, and it's like you arriving in the United States as a 7-year-old.
Exactly.
It's like you
What a
have
parallel.
had these incoming moments throughout your life. It seems like so obviously boom boom. Then
That's
what?
a good
What
book title, by the
I
way.
know.
Just a little plug there for
Yeah, a
you,
little plug.
because
But no, but
your life
seriously.
sounds like a book for sure.
Absolutely.
So you hear this incoming bombs, and then what?
So we all started seeking cover. So we went to bunkers, and all you see is just like rocks flying and dust blowing up and things like that. Thank God nothing happened to any one of us, and we were all safe. We got our briefing in regards to just coming to the fob from our captain.
Now that that's over, let me tell you what your job is. Oh
It was
my
your welcome
goodness.
fireworks.
Yeah, welcome fireworks. Jeez.
To me, all I said to myself was like, oh my God, this S is real. And for the next 8 months, your life was completely on edge every single day, every minute, every second. You never knew what was going to happen. If they could shoot rounds off from out in the streets and they could land where we're living at, where we're sleeping at, you're not that safe, you know? So at this particular time, obviously the military has a whole bunch of things, but in regards to like the sophistication of intercepting these types of things coming in was not there yet. So the first mission that we go on, we're providing security for a unit that we're there with. And the thing that I learned in regards to being there was that you could never, ever get complacent, because complacent will kill you. So we're there, and for several hours, nothing is going on. We're just seeing people doing their thing, driving their car, going through their houses and things like that. And then all of a sudden, it gets super dark. Nothing. And I'm there in my tank, and I see this RPG shoots, and it lands right behind my tank. And I duck down, and we get back up. I communicate with my gunnery sergeant, what's going on, and we immediately open fire into this building, killing everybody. And this was the first time shooting my weapon, but the amount of adrenaline, the amount of things that's going on inside of you, the amount of things that's built up inside of you is being released all at this particular time. And I say that as in, we've been on different patrols, different missions and things like that, had to engage the enemy multiple times throughout that period. But this was the first time actually being in war, and this actually occurred to me, and being that close to someone actually shooting me, and it didn't hit me. This is when I was saying that I know I have a praying family and a praying grandmother and a praying mom and all those things, because nothing happened to me. And then fast forward, we're there for another 8 months, and we're doing other things in between that. But the last mission that we're on, we're there, and my gunnery sergeant, which was leading our section, he got injured and he had to leave. So I became the section leader leading our unit. So I'm the first tank on everything that we're doing. So anything comes our way, it's me. And we're there, and we went on a mission the day prior, and we got attacked. And we started shooting these guys, and then we eventually captured them and turned them in. And then the next day, we go back out to link back up with our unit. And when we go back to link up with our unit, we had to get some ammunition, some MREs, and we had to get some supplies for them. So I have Lance Corporal Lowe, he's my driver in the front, and I have Lance Corporal Casanelli in the back. And they're set up in a 360 perimeter. So we're going counterclockwise, and I'm dropping things off, and we get to the last vehicle, and the last vehicle is a Humvee. And on this Humvee, it has my gunnery sergeant, it has our doctor, it has Hernandez, which is the gunner, and it has my best friend Soto that's in the driver's seat. We talk to them for a little bit. We give them their supplies. My gunnery sergeant was back there smoking a cigarette, and we pull off. 5 seconds right after that, I hear the loudest bomb and the loudest explosion I've ever heard in my life. Shrapnels from that gashed me across the eye, injured my shoulder, injured my back, knocked me out inside of my tank. And I'm inside of my tank, and Casanelli comes up and he grabs me and starts checking on me like, Sergeant, wake up, trying to make sure that I'm okay. And from there, I come back to, and then we position the tank back again, and we get out. And we get out, and I go out, and we see nothing but dust, fire, and you can smell metal, you can smell blood in the air. And gunnery sergeant has blood running through his ears. The doctor, his legs is blown off. Hernandez, half of his face is blown off. And my best friend Soto, his stomach is on the steering wheel.
Oh, no.
And I had to put him in a body bag. And after that, I decided that it was time for me to get out of the military based off those experiences that I was experiencing.
Well, and you just don't walk out of the military, so I'm sure you had to finish your
Yeah,
contract.
I did. So after that, we came back to the United States, re-engaged back with family. But that transition was not the easiest, especially when you're someone that just came from fighting a war, dealing with combat, and now you're supposed to go to the grocery store, go to the movies, call your family and friends and things like that.
No, and
Trying to adjust.
knowing what other people are going through in other parts of the world and being in the state of fight or flight constantly, like the amount of stress buildup, inflammation in your body. I mean, it's everything. PTSD, I'm sure you probably had to deal with some of that.
So what does the word resilience mean to you?
The word resilience mean being able to go through some tough things, some tough times, but having the fortitude and that mental fortitude to continuously push through, because resilience teaches you so many things about you mentally, emotionally, so much things about your identity, so much about your character, and see what could you actually push through. And I think that's what life was always showing me, because coming from Jamaica and going through that childhood experience, going through that childhood trauma, and some of the things that occurred to me in the Boy Scouts as well, having that injury in high school, and then joining the Marine Corps and going through some of those things too. And then anyone that has been through some of the things, statistically, I probably should not be here. Statistically, I should have given up. Statistically, I probably should have committed suicide. Statistically, I should have been in jail or prison or something like that.
Or
drugs or any of those things. But somehow something inside of me chooses to keep on fighting. Something inside of me keeps on pushing. Something inside of me said that there's more to life. There's a purpose to life. There's something much more greater for me to go out here and do and accomplish. And I think that's what resilience actually shows you and teaches you about yourself as well.
So when did you actually disclose your abuse, and who did you disclose it to?
Glad you asked me that question. So I have a friend named Stephen Belber, and he's a writer. He used to write for Law & Order. He just put out a movie on Netflix. And I went to Houston, Texas, and the Writers Guild invited me to come down and write. And Steve was in that room. And I wrote 2 chapters, and I couldn't get past 2 chapters. And there was something inside of me where I could not be vulnerable and I could not be transparent. And Steve came over to me and said, "Hey, man, I think you got a great story here, but I think you need to flesh it out." And I was telling him, I said, "You know what? I don't know what it is, but I just can't get past these 2 chapters. And there's a blockage or something that's keeping me from even getting past any of these chapters." And he said, "Here, take my phone number and let's communicate and stay in contact after this." And now we're friends for close to over like 15 years.
Oh,
but
nice.
From there, I sat on my story and I could never actually get past that mental blockage. Then I was running my company. I had a construction company in South Florida, and I was running my company. And for the first year, we did really great. We was making a good bit of money and things like that. Made the Inc. 5000 through the franchise. And when I was going through that, I didn't find any satisfaction in the money. I didn't find any satisfaction in what I was doing. And somehow, some way, me and the franchise owner had a big argument, a big disagreement, and we decided to part ways with the franchise. And as I was going through that process, I was in the gym working out, and I'm just looking in the mirror. I'm asking, like, "God, what is next? What do you want me to do? What is it that you want me to do?" And he said, "It's time for you to tell your story. It's time for you to go out here and share your story and make an impact and help people." And from there, I said, "I'm going to do that. I'm going to take action and do what you just told me to do." And from there, I hired a company in regards to like getting the book out, writing the book, putting everything together, structuring the book, and all those things. And within 6 months, I put the book out and I wrote the book. And the book became a bestseller at the particular time. And then once I put the book out, then I got hacks. "Hey, could you come and do a TED Talk and come and share your story?" And then from there, I've never publicly speak or do any of those things. Right?
And what's the name of the book for our listeners?
The book is called Overcoming Adversity, Getting Your Life Back on Track.
Oh, please send me a picture of it, and I'll post it on our podcast.
I will.
That's amazing. So wait, you're on TEDx, and you've never spoken, and was that your first public speaking engagement?
First public speaking engagement, mind you, but since I've been in the military, I've been leading. So I've been in front of people speaking all the time and telling people what to do or share my story. But that's a little bit different, especially when you're amongst your peers and people that you're working with.
You're talking about something extremely personal.
Personal and intimate to be able to tell it.
Exactly. So, I got asked to do the TED Talk, and I'm like, what should I name this? What should be the title? And then how should I tell my story? So I said, well, I've never done this. So I hired someone to help coach me on how to tell my story and how to put it together. And the person said, tell me your story. And I'm telling them my story just like you. And they said, I think you should title it The Hurricanes of Life. And that's what we titled it, The Hurricanes of Life, being someone that been through the flood, the hurricane, and all of these other things that I've been through.
I still like my title better. Incoming.
Incoming is good. So tell me about, I understand that you are married.
Yes, I am.
And that you have married and divorced the same woman.
Yes.
And then remarried.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We have to give us the tea. Come on.
Let me tell you this.
That says resilience right there.
I know,
Absolutely.
That's resilience.
So it's interesting that this occurred this way. So I personally struggled with relationships because of things that occurred to me in the past. So whenever I was ever close to being intimate with another woman, touching or anything that on her part may think it's cool, like it's aggressive or whatever it may be, I may have taken aback to that in regards to like her touching me a certain way. So that was an adjustment for me as a man, especially trying to be a man and trying to go through that. So when I was out of the military, I got married to my son's mom when I got out. And we actually never really lived together. We just got married, and I lived in South Carolina. She lived in Miami. And then when I was working on the railroad, we decided to move in together. And we realized that we weren't compatible. We were not meant to live together. And after about 1.5 years, we got divorced. And as I was going through that divorce, I was still struggling with some mental health issues, PTSD, traumatic brain injury. And while I was on the railroad, I witnessed another suicide. And that brought a whole bunch of flashbacks to me and started traumatizing me in many different ways, where I said I need to start going to get some help. So as I was going through that process, trying to get help, I went through my first divorce, and I'm just struggling. And as soon as I got that divorce paper that same day, I did something crazy and something stupid.
Oh, no.
I went out, started drinking, and I got a DUI. And after getting this DUI, I was in a very, very, very dark place. And while I'm in this very dark place, I started like trying to like figure things out about myself. And I said, you know what, I'm going to give this dating thing one more shot, one more chance. And I get on this app, and I'm looking at, this is when apps were just coming around in regards to dating. And then I see this lady on there named Courtney Jones. And I said, let me reach out to her. And she knows this. I call her Chickmunk, but she looks like a chipmunk when she was there on the screen. So,
oh my gosh. I hope now it's a loving thing, right?
Yeah. So we spoke on the app for a little bit, and then we got on the phone, and she called me. But when she called me, I was working or something, and we didn't talk long. So she was like, this guy's a joke. So we didn't talk for a couple of days because I was busy doing something. And then following that, we followed up, and then we got on the phone. And then when we got on the phone, we spoke for about 6 hours.
Wow.
6 hours just divulging our lives, and we just clicked. And from there, we started dating.
Aren't you glad she gave you a second chance there?
I did. So
I'm focused. I promise. I'll listen.
So we started dating, and at the time, she was a single mom. She had a son, and at the time, I was divorced, and I was a single dad. So we went through that process in regards to dating each other, courting each other. And then I got a job in Washington, D.C. to work for the government. So I had to transition. I had to leave her back in Georgia when I was here in Georgia working. And she comes up to Georgia. She decides to come up there and bring her son and all these things, making a big sacrifice. So we're there, and then I was working, and I said to one of my friends, I said, hey, I think I'm going to propose to her and ask her to marry me. So I had babysitters for our kids, and then I called the dinner cruise, and I said, hey, I want to propose to my wife on this dinner cruise tonight.
Is this in Washington?
In Washington, D.C., yeah.
All right.
So we went out, and in the middle of the dance floor, I just got on my knees, and I proposed to her, and she said yes.
Wait, how long had you been dating?
At this particular moment, we were dating for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So we were together for a while.
We were dating for about 5 years. I proposed to her, and 6 months later, we got married. And we're living there in Germantown, Maryland, and things are going great. We had a great honeymoon, went to the Bahamas, and we're having a good time. And we come around New Year's, and all of a sudden we have this big, crazy fight. Big, crazy fight between me, her son. And all of a sudden, Michael Allison, that has not dealt with trauma, PTSD, any of these things, say, I'm done. And said, I'm going to file for divorce because of how bad this fight got.
Well, that's
so
very
fight
common.
or flight.
Fight or flight.
flight.
Very common to run away. And
So after dating for 5 years and married for 6 months, I filed for divorce. And me thinking that this was the best solution, I relocated back to Florida. But the closest place that my company could get me was to Tampa, Florida. Because at that same time, I was going through a custody battle with my ex-wife. And I'm trying to deal with that. I'm flying back and forth. I'm staying in hotels. I'm getting rental cars. I'm trying to see my son and all these different things. And mentally, I was not there. And then I'm there in Tampa, Florida, and I'm doing things that I should not be doing. I'm living the life that I should not be living. And this is when a whole bunch of things just started flooding and just coming inside of me where I don't feel worthy. I don't feel valued. I don't see the point of being here anymore.
The lies. We just talked about that.
And one night I was there, I started heavily drinking, and I got my weapon, and I went to that bridge in Tampa, Florida. I tied some weights to my legs, and I was going to take my life that night. And glory to God, I did not do that. And in that midst of the moment, there's a letter that I wrote my mom that when I was in boot camp about how hard boot camp was. But I kind of told her that I was never going to quit and never want to give up on my wife, never give up on my family, never give up on my kids was something that was flashing in my mind at the time. In addition to that, there was something that said, how dare you take your life in regards to the guys that you serve with. And they lost their lives overseas too as well. And they don't deserve that because they actually went through it. On top of that, you were 5, 6, 7 seconds away from you losing your life from that car bomb as well too. How dare you do anything like that? And from that flashing in my mind, I got off that bridge and I went back home. And that's when I just went on this path of like, I'm going to fix my life. I'm going to change everything that's been going on. I'm going to get my wife back. I'm going to get my kids back. I'm going to become the best person I could ever be and just live my life on purpose and just living with true values and things like that. And ever since then, I've been set ablaze.
Oh, amen. Amen. Well, that was God talking to you, speaking to you. Those flashes that was God's voice.
Yeah.
And praise God that you heard his voice and
Absolutely.
that you were obedient to his voice. And that you're here today
We're
with
glad
us.
you're here.
So as a man who obviously went through so much trauma, bottled it up, didn't talk about it, went to fight for our freedoms in our country, have done some amazing work, and it sounds like with the railroad and the corporate world. Can you please speak to the man out there that's spiraling right now, that feels like they're not worthy, that feels like they don't matter, that feels like this abuse has defined who they are? Can you speak to them for me?
Absolutely. To the man that's out there that's hearing this podcast and that's hearing my voice, I just want to let you know that your adversity does not define you. It does not create that identity for you. You have the voice, you have the power within you to redefine that. Your circumstances are not the final resolute to anything. As for someone you could take myself, you could take my story, for example, going through all of these things, going through all of these gamuts of things, I could have easily given up and I could have easily quit. But there's something inside of you, and there's a God that's out there that truly lets you know that you're not defined by that in regards to like you are worthy, you are valued, you are loved, you are cared about. And that's something that I had to start identifying with, knowing that there's a man up above that truly cares about you and truly loves you and lets you know that you don't have to walk around with grief, guilt, shame, any of those things that you may have identified for yourself or put some of those things inside of a bottle. When you think about it, you're robbing yourself of your joy, your happiness, your love, your peace, all of these different things that you have in abundance that you can live for. So I just want to tell you that I love you, I care about you, and there's so much more to this life out here for you as well.
Amen. And tell us a little bit about your organization.
Absolutely. So the Adversity Academy is a leadership development company where we also do personal development company. We also are a personal development company too as well. So we have leadership development for our senior executives, middle management, and first line supervisor, which are 5-day intensive training. Then we have online training that works on your personal development. Personally, for me, if you could tell from my story, I do believe that personal development and professional development do coincide and do go together, which is hence why we created the program as well too. From time to time, I do get called out to do keynote speeches, which I talk about my story, and I put that inside of a framework and help our audience and our listeners understand how you could get past overcoming adversity and breaking the bottle and shattering limits and beliefs as well too.
You remind me of a movie I had just watched, and
Which
I don't
movie?
know if you've seen it, but what you're doing and the impact you're having, which I don't even think that you even can, like, I see it. I'm sure you see it.
I see it.
But sometimes when we're in it, you don't see it. Like the podcast, we don't know how we're impacting people until we get that. But the movie was called The Forge.
I just seen that on Netflix.
So do you
Well, I have to go watch
understand
it.
what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You have to
Gotta
watch
watch
it.
it.
Like what you're doing, I feel is having that same ripple effect that the movie talks about. So if you haven't seen that movie, you guys watch The Forge, because it's not doing this huge grandiose thing. It's taking that one person and guiding them and mentoring them. You're doing more than one person, it seems like. So you're even having a larger impact, but much faster. But my goodness, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I mean, it gives me hope. It gives me inspiration. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's overwhelming in a good sense of what you've been through. And it's kind of reminds me a little bit about my book. When you read it, people will tell me, man, when did you even catch a break? You got one thing after another. And then it's like,
Sounds like that too.
yeah.
With your story. So
but-
how can people get in touch with you if I know it'll be in the links below, but we'll give you an opportunity to share.
Most definitely. So if people want to contact me, you can go to directly to my website at www.michaelwallison.com. On social media at IamMichaelWallison.com. And then you could also look at the Adversity Academy at www.theadversityacademy.com too as well.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's a
we'll
lot.
definitely have all of that. And don't forget to send me the cover of your
Well,
book.
the whole story has been an inspiration, so I even kind of feel guilty asking you this, but we end every show just asking our guests to look into that camera and to speak to our audience and to give them a voice of inspiration. So we're going to give you that
A
opportunity
little
now.
nugget, a little
Absolutely.
nugget.
Thank you so much. My voice is just a voice, but it's the voice that could help change people's lives. And I just want to let you know that your adversity does not define you, but you get the opportunity to redefine your life and redefine your outcome. So always identify with your decision, your direction, and the destination, because I know God is always going to be there with you. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Perfect. Very, very good. On point.
So it's been awesome to have Michael Allison with us today. It's been
So
awesome
good to
for
meet
you to tune in. We're so grateful for our audience. We're so grateful for Mesmerize Media. And we just thank you for taking time today to spend with us.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, click the little button if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you have any comments, feel free to put them in any platform that we're on. But as I always say, if they're private and you don't want it to make it public, go to our website at voiceupforthevoiceless.com/contact us. And if you have anything for Michael, we'll make sure and forward it to him.
So I'm Angela Williams.
And I'm Katie Sudano.
Thanks for joining Voice Up for the Voiceless.
Thank you.